Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Donnie Glover, and welcome to the BlackUSA.News morning show. We're going to bring you another hour of news and information. Put this phone on mute. Hope you're doing well. You know, there's something I wanted to share before we bring up our first guest. There was a young lady reported on the news last night of killing her two children. I just wanted to say that mental health is just like physical health. If you broke your arm, you go to the hospital. So if you hurt your brain, if you hurt your mind, if you've been through some trauma, there are doctors, there are therapists, there are people we can talk to, get over the stigma of mental illness. Mental health is just like physical health. If your mind's not strong, then get some help. It's okay. You're not the first, you won't be the last. And no matter what it is, there's somebody who you can talk to about it. Let's say hello. Good morning, Mr. Stanley. And there's Rico. Peace and blessings from God's giving hands. Okay, one of my favorite parts of the state of Maryland is gorgeous Prince George's County. First went there as an adult around 2002. And they took me to, good morning, Mr. Haney. They took me to Woodmore. And once I saw Woodmore, I have never been the same. I tell you, this man here, Mr. Joe Gaskins, promised me that he would get me a home in Woodmore. If you don't know about Woodmore, that was a joke, Joe. If you don't know about Woodmore, just imagine multi-million-dollar homes around a golf course, all owned by Black people. I don't know about you, but that was the closest thing I ever saw to Wakanda.
Yeah, it's a nice place. Look, yeah. Donnie, it's a nice place. I mean, since then, they've developed even more. So, you know, maybe I can pick you up a foreclosure or something.
I tell you
along the way.
Dr. Wilbert Wilson did afford us the opportunity to host a Black Wall Street Awards ceremony there at Woodmore at the Country Club. And it was one of the greatest Black Wall Streets that we ever had because, again, it was the first place I ever visited as an adult in Prince George's County. And it just meant a lot to me. Beautiful surroundings, beautiful people, upwardly mobile. And then they have Dr. Wilbert Wilson. Well, need I say anymore? Joe Gaskins, tell them about yourself. Joe, Joe, what's your title? You are the CEO of the African American Cannabis Association?
Yeah, yes, I am. That's one of the titles I hold. Also, I'm co-chair of the Maryland Business Clergy-Partnership between the churches and businesses here in the county. So, you know, I hold both titles, and I really put a lot of work into making sure that we're inclusive of the population that we represent, and that's the African American individuals.
Well, help me out, Joe. We're talking about weed on one hand, and we're talking about the clergy on the other.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, weed is no longer a product that I used to use when I was in college as a product to enhance my my level of highness. I want to use that at that particular point in time. We had no idea that the medical benefits of the drug itself, and many individuals did not know. Now it's going to probably become a $200 billion industry in the country because it has tremendous healing power. Now I'm using it in my old age to rub on my joints to help with the pain.
Are you talking about the CBD oil?
The CBD oil that's been converted, yes. But also its proven success is that you use that particular product when individuals have, kids have mental illness, as you just reported on earlier. It works to calm individuals. It helps in all cases, if used properly, it helps to benefit you and not to hurt you. So it's an industry that I thought that we need to be in there in the industry as a Black people. You know what happened, or maybe you don't, but you know, when they did the first round of awards, you had all white males who received licenses for cannabis. And we fought that. We fought it, and we fought it, and we fought it. And then this year, about 10 years later, as we predicted, when the industry had gotten a solid foundation and those who got the license earlier had become entrenched in it, we were finally being given an opportunity to participate in the industry as business people. Now, you know the impact of what the industry has been on black males in the industry, and still is. When
You got
police
black people
bust,
locked up for you got black people locked up for 10, 20, 30 years over a joint.
yes, absolutely. And when they lock,
Meanwhile, white America is selling marijuana by the pounds and getting rich.
absolutely, that's the story. That's the real story, Donnie. So the bottom line is, with the speaker this time around, and with the chairman of the Black Caucus, Darrell Bonds, they assured that they're going to put in place a agenda that would include the inclusiveness of black firms in the market, and also to erase those terms. What they cannot replace with individuals who they locked up is 10, 20 years of incarceration behind a non-criminal action, which is horrific. From my perspective, I'm working every day to assure that I get businesses included in that particular process, and there is vindication, as much vindication as possible. No one can replace the damage that life, that of a person's life when you lose 20 years and you got to sit behind bars.
Well,
But we certainly.
let me just share with you. There's an entity in Harlem, the Harlem Business Alliance, Regina Smith, and she feels exactly the same way that you do.
It's horrendous, man. And look,
So
Donnie,
you have national partners that you may not even know about.
I don't know about them. You're the connector, so you can connect that. Now we'll do it after the show is over. But I'm reaching a stage where I look around and all of a sudden I'm at an age that I'm blessed to be at. But hell, I'm not too optimistic on where I got to go with the short time left to get there. So anything that you can do in that particular area will assist with that particular mission that will help others along the way. Because in the construction and development industry, we're doing so horrible that it's worse now when I came in as a 28-year-old person in business. I mean, we're doing.
That's what I want to go back to. When you and I first connected, maybe 15 years ago or so, it was marijuana was not the topic du jour. The issue du jour was the fact that Prince George's County is a majority black county, and when projects like National Harlem, I remember us fighting to make sure that black contractors, including the man that drops the concrete, I don't remember his name, but I remember you guys fighting to make sure that black contractors got a piece of that pie.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Brian, he didn't get it. They phased him out. They beat him up so bad that he died about 3 years ago from a heart attack. In the industry, an individual who had the talent, technical skills to get it done, but just was not going to be included in the process. So, it's unfortunate that we're still dealing with that now. The numbers now, I'm going to give you numbers for Prince George County. The primes in Prince George County are doing about 66%. Black companies are doing 14%. And this is in a county that has reverse numbers in terms of representation. Blacks make 60-some% of the county, and whites make 14%. But it's really a reverse situation. It's pretty much like South Africa, where all of the economics are owned by white business people, and black individuals are just subjects of being consumers. So it's a tough trend. We got to change it, and we will have a chance to change it this go around, Donnie, during this particular election. So we've called for all of the individuals who are running for office to create a black agenda and have that black agenda presented to the community. And we no longer can afford to have individuals who prop up individuals, because as voters, they see a black face. but they really don't know who's behind them controlling those particular individuals. They see a white face sometimes, and they don't know who's behind that white face, who's controlling them. Economics is a powerful tool. The dollar is a mighty, mighty tool unless we do our homework. And unfortunate, individuals don't have the forte nor the time to do the homework, so they get thrust in place with an individual who really don't have their cause in mind. So make them write it down and present that report to the public on who is the candidate. And the way you're a candidate is if you can put your agenda in place, and that agenda can be agenda that people can buy into, then I can support you. Otherwise, it doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Filipino. It doesn't matter. Color has no matter in the equation. The equation is what gets to your bottom line and what gets to my bottom line and what gets to the businesses that we represent, what gets to the bottom line after their expenses are done. And the long-term generational wealth is what I'm concerned about.
Joe, who has been advocating, who has been helping our cause? And we've been working together, past 15 years or so. We've seen a number of elections come and go. You have certainly an understanding, as do I, of what a Bob Ehrlich meant to the cause of black business, what a Hogan means to black business, in contrast to, say, the Democrats.
Yeah.
What have we learned over the past 15 years? I can tell you one thing I've learned. I've learned that when Baltimore black business and Prince George's black business stick together and have a similar agenda and we support each other, we tend to get more of what we need.
Well, I have the fortunate and unfortunate history of having been with some of our individuals who were pioneers in the area. In Baltimore, I've been a great friend of Robert Clay, who was, in my opinion, assassinated.
Assassinated, no question.
Assassinated. I mean, it's horrific. The people don't know it. Investigation killed, stopped completely, and no response. Now you got those same people who were involved in that assassination now involved in the election of the next governor of the state of Maryland. That's the bad part. And they run around and they tell individuals that, okay, the candidate that we're running against is a racist. Those terms are totally irrelevant and totally mind controlling of the population that go to the poll and really don't know. But we need to know that, Donnie. We need to know that just because you're a black face and you're standing up there and you're representing the black community, look who's behind you and who's doing that, who's going to be controlling at the end of the day. And like, going back to that, Bob Ehrlich was one of the best governors ever to step foot in the capital of the state of Maryland. I mean, he's the only governor who came to our business incubator and said, look, Joe, write the number down that you need me to provide funding for your operation to help small black businesses. He stepped forward. He did this. Now, what I do encourage you to do is look at the individuals out there. We've got the black business plan that came from Peter Francho, who's been there. And he's got a tremendous individual plan. We are encouraging every other individual who's running to create that black business plan. And
let me just slide in here for a second. Peter Francho, what has been his track record in supporting black business?
What Peter did, let me give you the story on Peter. When Peter first came in, he saw that there were no black money managers, which is important to the state. The state has tons of taxes. And prior to him getting there, had only been one person, and that person was in Glendenning's administration that managed funds. That you got it. Absolutely. You went brilliant. I love you because you know the history. So he was there, and after he left, there were none. Peter came in and he said, I'm going to create wealth by bringing black money managers. The first undertaking he did was to bring in 6 entities at the end of the day to manage money. Those entities are still there. They're managing money for the state of Maryland. They're doing a great job. He also, from his position as comptroller in the state of Maryland put aggressive plan of action in that had every contract that was coming through the state of Maryland to be stopped to look at the MBE participation on it and wouldn't allow it to go until he was called on that and said, you can't do that. You cannot.
Now, I got to interject in here.
Right.
I am the #1 critic of Martin O'Malley.
Okay.
However, I got to be fair.
Right.
It was O'Malley who actually made MBE an issue when he was mayor of Baltimore. There are a lot of things he did that I did not agree with, including zero tolerance, including his disrespect of Black women.
Yes.
However, I got to tell the truth. And Martin O'Malley pushed MBE. He was, after Smoke left, that was O'Malley's way of earning support in the Black community. He did push MBE on the local level and on the state. And then Early came in, became governor. Remember, O'Malley stepped back, let Kathleen Kennedy Townsend run, and she was a horrible candidate. She was she was even more disrespectful of Black people.
Sure.
But actually O'Malley set the precedent. Ehrlich took it to the next level. And then when O'Malley became governor, he kind of picked up on the MBE thing again. So the lesson that I got from it is that we as a Black people must be able to push our causes, regardless of who the governor is, who the mayor is, and what party they are from. Yeah. But I will say that I found Republicans to be a lot more business friendly. When I look at the city of Baltimore, it is not business friendly. We chase businesses away. We have no idea how to nurture business. We need to get over our blue collar mentality and get to the greenbacks, because business is the backbone of any community, any city, any state. And if Black businesses are thriving, then you can best believe that there are more Black people who'd rather be going to work tomorrow than doing a stick up or selling some cocaine or whatever else that people do in desperate times. Thank you.
I agree totally, Donnie. I agree. I think that the future of the state of Maryland rests on the back of Prince George County, on the back of Baltimore City as leaders. Not so much that we have population levels that are growing because we're actually losing numbers in those two counties, but because we have aggressive history of being legislators. I think that counties like Howard County, I think counties like Charles County are becoming very aggressive. They're bringing in a new minority individual into the equation. Partnerships are needed between the Black community and other communities of color. And then we got to use aggressive approach in order to assure that our votes are not being taken for granted. We got to make sure that at the end of the day, nobody's selling us a bill of good from a business perspective, that indeed, when you promise us contracts, that we're receiving those particular contracts, that there is not a two-faced approach to doing this thing. And we have to be thankful that we've lost some individuals along the way. God seemed fit to remove them from the equation, and we have new individuals. But those new individuals cannot be the type of individual that follow the same status quo. They've got to be pressured by us. They've got to be molded by us. They have to be a leadership at the end of the day that delivers. Otherwise, generations of Black individuals in the state of Maryland will be at the same levels another 10 to 20 years that they are at this particular stage of the games.
Joe, what meetings have you had this week?
Oh, Jesus. I had 4 meetings this week. I had the meeting with the NAACP this week. I had a meeting with franchise individuals to get 2 business people involved in the sports gaming industry, which is another industry that I didn't talk about, that we really haven't fared well in that at all. That goes back to MGM, trying to get put in place what is going to be probably something that's only done in the state of Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia specifically, where they put a program in place that would specifically allow for Black owners of sports betting operations to participate in at an equity level ownership position. Only done now in the DMV in Washington, D.C., who's progressive enough to have put in place a person who has a contract to run that. Now, we as Black people bet more. I think Senator Lawler put this out there. Investing in the stock market is basically done through the numbers game. We play the games, the lottery games, more than any other community there. The Black people are involved. But from an ownership perspective, we're not in the game. That money goes to the big boys like the MGMs of the world. So that new sports betting, we're pushing to have a plan that will involve the equity ownership, not just a subcon relationship, a equity ownership of firms that have capacity in the business. But those equity ownership individuals who are controlling the market will be able to enhance and go in bars, restaurants, 7-Elevens, and put their games in those particular locations and receive the benefits of it. So it will be an approach that will basically benefit the small as well as create legacy wealth at the top of the game. And it's phenomenal because it's going to be a fight for us to do. But if we're successful, we'll be the first that's ever done in the state of Maryland perspective. So this governor that we're electing has to be a governor that buys into the concept and supports it. Our chairman of our Black caucus is going to have to buy in. Our speaker is going to have to buy in, and the president of our Senate is going to have to buy in, Donnie. So we got a lot of work to sensitize individuals, and quite often money controls in the industry. But at this particular game, we should be sensitive enough and smart enough to know that the power is in the hands of the people. Right now, the power in Annapolis is in the hands of the African-American individual and the people of color. Well,
it was almost in Derek Vaughn's hands.
Yes, that's where it lies. That's my buddy. Derek over there. Daryl is my guy when it comes to that. And he needs help. It's a lot of pressure.
No. The guy who ran, he was trying to be Speaker of the House.
Yes, that was no. You mean Derek Davis?
Derek Davis.
Derek Davis was the guy who really
he was almost Speaker of the House. If he would have took those Republican votes,
he would have won. Absolutely, he would have won.
Hands down.
He would have won hands down. Would not have been an issue. Now he's playing afterthought with it. I mean, but politics is a very tricky game. And it means that either you are smart enough or maneuvering enough to get where you need to go. At the end of the game, there's no excuses for winning at the end of the day. Either you do it or you don't do it. Now it's going to be on Bonds over there, because Bonds has the position now of being that chair of the caucus to kind of facilitate the Black voters to get on the right track and supporting that Black agenda that's going to be rolled out by the next governor, and should be the goal of the chairman of the Black caucus, as well as the Black legislators as well. We need a total buy-in. We don't need people sitting on the fence on this one. Quite often we got warmed over people who sit in office. They look good. They go in the community when it's time to raise money and get votes, but then they disappear on you, Donnie.
Especially considering the damage done by Thomas V. Mike Miller on the Black, not just the Black community, but the Black psyche. I watched that man bully Black people up and down Annapolis.
Donnie, I look at it this way. Slavery ended in 1865. It's people like Mike Miller that allowed that aggressive behavior, colonialistic behavior to go into 2021. It's a disaster. It was an effective tool that he used, but it takes two to tango. We really didn't have enough aggressive individuals that fought against that. We had people who just basically bought into it, Donnie. It's difficult to understand, but thank God it's gone now. but we got to have a new tool. But I mean,
Hey Joe,
this, yeah.
you remember this award here?
Oh yeah, the Mandela Award. It only goes to strong people, Donnie. You still have yours. That's unspoken in terms of our appreciation to you and to the job that Mandela and the vision that Mandela portrayed or projected to the Black people all over the country, the world.
I will
So
never
yes,
forget.
I do remember that.
I will never forget that holiday weekend down in Prince George's County and the Mandela Award. We were in one of them mansions down there. Were we in
Yes, we did. We took the mansion over. The mansion that was once a slave place and was not. The blacks only worked in kitchens as slaves. We took the mansion over and we ran a child program out there that night, and we made numerous awards. And you got the award in the area of broadcasting. And you went on, and you're still there, doing great. Uh, Supporting the Black community, reaching out, getting the message across to the Black community. So, as Black business people, we cannot have the two important pieces that we cannot survive without, and that's media and access to capital. And you know that. And that's my good buddy over there, Stan Tucker. I had a meeting with him too early, and I've got a follow-up meeting with him this week in terms of meeting, is that making sure that we're creating the capital that these younger businesses have access to. Otherwise, they have no chance.
I'm glad you mentioned Stan Tucker. Listen, this is from Michael Haney. What's different in Annapolis now? When you consider Baltimore, Prince George's Black leadership, what's different in Annapolis now? We mentioned Darrell Barnes, chair of the caucus. We inferred Speaker Adrian Jones from Randallstown. There's also Bill Ferguson now, the new Senate president. What does this mean for Black people? And again, under Ehrlich, under Hogan, particularly Ehrlich, I saw the issue of Black business. I hate the term MBE because everybody wants to be a minority, including white males. But who is pushing for Black people unapologetically? Because when you look at this new generation, we're up there. But these 20, 30-year-olds, they're not passive.
No, they're not. Nor can they afford to be passive individuals. Passive individuals led to slavery and years of slavery after slavery, which allowed individuals like Miller to constantly dominate. And that's the difference. Whenever you move an icon out of place like Miller, and we couldn't do it, so God had to do it for us. When you move an individual out like that, that opens the door.
Let me just say this about Mike Miller. When Kwesi was running for Senate down in 06, I was coming to Prince George's weekly. We were doing events down there. O'Malley, Mike Miller, they disrespected that man in Annapolis. At best, they want to make Kwesi the head of AFRAM, the African American Festival. But when he ran for a serious position as U.S. Senator, because we've never had a Black U.S. Senator in the state of Maryland, he was denied. When I look at our attempts to get a Black governor, I don't know if it's so much our fault as it was the establishment for giving us some willy-nilly Black people who were afraid to say they were Black.
I always
know what I'm talking about.
I know
I'm
what
not
you're
a Black man. Well, what the hell are you? Because you got nappy hair.
Hey, look. I don't care what the hell you say you are. You are what you are. Right. You can sit in the room and you can pretend just because you have a few more dollars than the next person along the line, you're accepted. But when the deal goes down, you are a Black person. Now, you go back to that. That's one of my best individuals. I supported Kwesi for governor of the state.
No, he ran for Senate.
State. No, I supported. Let me rephrase it. I wanted him to be governor of the state of Maryland, and I supported that from outside of the circle for him to do, because he was the guy who such a phenomenal man. You have to hear.
Well, let's talk about the other one, Ben Jealous. We haven't seen him since the last election.
He disappeared. We have individuals who come in and they disappear. and they don't come back, which really tells us that the old word was carpetbaggers. We had people who would come in and they would take advantage of the fact that the population levels were where they are. And they would say, okay, this is a perfect timing for me to be governor. So let me move over into location in the state of Maryland and let me now set up headquarters and run for governor. We can't have that. We have our homegrown individuals who know the problems that they inherit with the community. And unless they are here, they don't know. And the other thing, they have to have courage to represent you in those particular positions. So those kind of guys who come in, pretend, and then move out are not guys that we can support. And the person who asked that question should know that an aggressive new population of individuals that were spawned by the Black Lives Matter movement, the aggressive new leadership of and have woke up the community. Now, what we have not woke up, Donnie, is the college kids who led the movement during the 60s in terms of moving forward with a strong economic development plan that would be a continuation of the plan that Martin referred to as the next stage of growth that he did not see, and I haven't seen it. So that new growth has got to be spurred by what we do right now in this state in terms of leadership, elected leadership, and also economic development capacity building. So we got to work on those particular areas, and that's what I foresee as the new frontier for us to develop.
Okay, so what role does Annapolis play? I'm hearing you push Francho. There's some other people. Have you heard from Westmore, Rashawn Baker, Tom?
I've heard. Yeah, I've not heard from either of those individuals. Let's start with Westmore. He's a tremendous looking individual. He's got background, but he's stepping into a territory that he doesn't know. He's now proposing to be a governor of a state that he's not been elected to any position in the state, and he's proposing to go against an economic structure that is a difficult structure for any candidate, white, black, or whatever, to compete against. How do you do this? What tool do you do? Who are your partners when you take this journey along your way? All those identifiable issues.
One answer I've heard is, well, Hogan didn't have any experience. Hogan did it.
Yeah, what Hogan had beyond, I mean, you can't use mama may have, papa may have, whatever. But he had a father who was in politics. So he had the advantage of learning that. But the difference
he came to the table with a following. That man had a social media page with 500,000 people. He had more followers on his social media than the television stations and the newspaper. He had already built his army. So he just didn't step out there willy-nilly. He had an army when he came to the party.
You got to understand that. And you also understand that either
I remember they did a fundraiser for him down. We have one of our, and Michael, you got daylight behind you, and you're already chocolate, so you gotta, yeah. Oh, we still can't hear you. Look like deep throat, man. You need the inside light on you. Where you at?
Well, you can hear my voice, can't you, Donnie?
Yeah, but the daylight and the inside light.
I understand that, but the most important thing is my voice. But I'm going to take care of that in a second. Mr. Gaskins, how you doing, man? Ron,
I'm doing great, man.
Very highly of you, man. Ron speaks very highly of you.
Ron, Michael. Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're civil engineers. We go back to early 2000s when Ron was an engineer in his uncle's company, construction company, one of the best companies in Baltimore, Cotton Construction, during that time. And I've known Ron ever since that time. Yeah, phenomenal guy. He fought through a lot of things to get into a position to influence in the industry. well respected.
So,
Absolutely.
Mr.
And he
Haney,
is a
Mr.
he's a
Haney, you have been
phenomenal.
alluding to Annapolis and Black Power in your comments. And as you well know, I won't speak for you. You're more than capable of articulating yourself. So you have the
Well, I
floor.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. I lived in Brandywine for a period of time, Mr. Gaskins. Very familiar with Prince George's County. People don't like them to call it PG. I did learn that when I lived in Prince George's County. And I was listening to your statistical data of 60+% of Black people live in the county, one of the most progressive or richest county in the Black demographics in this country, 14% of prime contractors. And then you mentioned Annapolis as a new ground for Black power in the state to rectify some of our issues. You spoke of the marijuana industry to this date, which we still don't have a significant presence other than the street corners in Sandtown and in District Heights and in areas of Prince George's County where Blacks sell nickel bags, but we don't have the significant presence of the multi-billion-dollar that the industry is turning to. And I'm just wondering what your hope and prayer is relative to Daryl Barnes, who I've spoken to, Derek Davis, Adrian Jones, who I love, a sweetheart, to what the real power base of this very conservative democratic state is to give Black people a hold of any opportunities that we've been promised by Democrats for centuries. And I just want to understand what's different in Annapolis now to what Baltimore City and Prince George's experience in terms of Black political power that really gives us an opportunity.
Well, let me respond in this way. The main factors I discussed that we have the person who control the minds of the Black individuals gone, who facilitated and controlled politics in Prince George County. Didn't matter what the voters thought in terms of their senator. The senator was going to be whoever Mike Miller wanted to be Senate. Be a senator or delegate or council member or county exec in the county. He's gone. That's one big picture. Now, can we free the minds of the individuals who are in the political process and have them see that? I would rather fight with that new team of individuals that still partly control in their mental thinking, but don't have a resource to go to because he's no longer on the scene to go to, and they're going to have to deal with individuals of power now who were looked at as being the Harriet Tubmans and were frowned upon in trying to liberate Black people into economic freedom. It's a much better position to play in. You cannot sell your community, continue to sell your community short. And we as leadership have got to work together collectively to do that. But first, the playing and the field that we're fighting against is a better field. They're better individuals. We can hold them accountable, but we cannot hold them accountable if we don't have the right governor in place at this particular time. So my focus has been on that, making individuals accountable at the gubernatorial level, making them write a plan for the Black community that they send through the community, that the community look at, community leaders like yourself can look at and says, okay, this is the best candidate and this is the best chance of getting it done. Not to just portray an image of a person who I think can do it, but portraying an image and making sure that the person that we put in place is going to do that. When we really do that.
Can I interject? Yeah, can I interject for a second, Mr. Gaskins?
Absolutely.
Relative to Annapolis Power? And let's focus on the Board of Public Works for a second.
Yes,
there,
absolutely.
Of which is, to me, the most powerful. You've got two elected positions, and then you have the treasurer who sit there and make multi-billion or almost trillion-dollar decisions in terms of what goes forward and what doesn't go forward. what would be a strategy to whisper to Daryl and Derek and Adrian to say that, hey, maybe we need to pass legislation to add a fourth position on that board, and to be a board position that belongs to the people, to the Black people, because that's where the real power is. And unless you're governor, unless you're controller, and unless you're the treasurer, we're never going to have an opportunity to have a say in the monetary decisions of this state that affect us as a people unless we're on that board. But that is something legislatively, just like they stopped Hogan dead in his tracks or many of his executive orders, with the power that Adrian has in the House to say, let's add a seat and that seat be more representative on the Board of Public Works to the people in this state. If we really care about giving Black people a say and an opportunity for monetary gain, give us a seat on the Board of Public Works. How about that?
No, I agree. It is, and most Marylanders don't know that it all bottlenecks and it comes directly to three people at the end of the day making a decision.
That
And
none look like us, none look
yeah,
like us,
right.
right?
And
And I
any,
heard what you said about Peter Francho earlier, and Peter's a good friend. If I don't
mhm,
talk to him every other week, and I know Peter comes from Montgomery County, we all have skeletons in our closet,
of
and
course,
Peter's a phenomenal human being that has changed his tone over the decades as he realized consensus is what's going to get him where he needs to go. But it's still not the same when you're talking with your head versus your heart, sitting on the Board of Public Works and making a decision over a $15 million contract that can go to Joe Brown in Prince George's County, or can go to Peter, whoever, up in Western Maryland. We need power on the Board of Public Works. Adrian, Derek, and Daryl can advocate for a legislative change to add a fourth seat to that board that gives Black people a real opportunity to have some power in this state without having to be elected governor, which has never happened, or controller, which has never happened, or appointed treasurer, which has never happened. That's
There
when we
was
start talking real.
the black treasurer, Richard Dixon.
yeah, there
Okay, I
was,
apologize. I apologize for that.
yeah. We have, and Richard was a good person. I had the opportunity to be in Annapolis during that time with the Prince George County Contractors Association, and he
Joe,
was a
Joe,
tremendous, he's a great individual, and I agree with
Joe,
you.
Joe, let me give you an easier question. Who do we want for comptroller? You got Brooke Learman, you got Tim Adams, the mayor of Bowie.
You got a tough question right there. Who do we want? There's your chance to get the black face that you talked about. So the question is the community going to rally around the mayor, or is it going to rally around Learman?
Now, let me give some background. Brooke Learman's daddy is out of
Your
Montgomery
daddy,
County politics. Now,
Yeah,
she's up in
big time.
Baltimore. In order to win the state of Maryland, you got to win Greater Baltimore, which is Baltimore City, Baltimore County. You got to win Prince George's County. You got to win Montgomery County. And it has been inferred in the past couple of minutes that Montgomery County is not the same Democrat that's in Baltimore City. It's an upwardly mobile, liberal, white Democrat out of Montgomery County.
that's accurate.
And they're not very empathetic to the poverty, to the mass incarceration, to the underperforming black businesses. They're not as empathetic as, say, the black people in Prince George's County are.
That's
But
accurate.
if you galvanize the newer demographic in Montgomery County of the Hispanic population, right? And this is where brown and black people can come together collaboratively to really gain some political power. Because when you looked at the latest census, Montgomery County was one of the change counties when it came to demographics, even though the voting block and the power of the money block is, like you said, the conservative, very conservative Democrats that kind of floated down from Western Maryland. You're right, Donnie, but the Hispanic population has just blossomed out there considerably.
How is their voting power?
That's the only thing. They, just like in Baltimore City and some of the other counties that have significant blacks, you know, we don't necessarily vote unless you're over 45 years old, you're African American female. You know, we have to figure that out. So
Well, let me
wanting
share this.
and
Let
getting
me
is two different things. Lieberman's father will and probably will get her elected because of the considerable clout that he has. And Joe asked Ron Lipscomb about that.
Yeah,
You
well,
know what I'm
Ron.
talking about.
Yeah, Ron's very, very close to her father. Very, very close to her father.
He's a very powerful man, quietly. Very
Yeah,
powerful.
he is. It's no question about it. And at the end of the game,
Ron Lipscomb, that's the man that rolled over on Sheila Dixon because they threatened him with a year in jail.
yes, that's the man. That's the man. That's the man. You have to be who you have to say who you really are, who the person really is. That's who Ron is. He's also a successful business person in the game, but he did. He did. But let's go back to the individual who can, or who in that particular race, who can make a difference in terms of his success. It's not easy to go from a business person to a mayor of a small city in whether it's Bowie or wherever it is, to be in the position of the powerful position of the comptroller. It's a very difficult position to do, extremely difficult. And so you have to really be inclusive of everybody who you can. You have to reach out to people. And I use this word, to reach out. I don't mean people reach in to you. You have to reach out to the grassroots and mobilize those people to get them supportive of your platform. Otherwise, you're wasting money and time running. Now, an effective individual who showed us who could do this, when you're running, is, and duplication has never been done before, is Marion Barry in the city. He went from ward to ward, ward to ward, locking down voters. These guys run, they put the name on a piece of paper, and then they expect you to support them without coming to you with their agenda. They don't come to a Donnie and say, hey, Donnie, look, can I go? You help me to get there. They go by themselves. So when you go by yourselves, you're doomed to the path that you follow. If you carry others with you, you win because you win as a team approach, and everybody is rewarded and not one person in the process.
Well,
So
I got
That's powerful. That's powerful, Mr. Gaskins.
Mr. Joe, we have to make the next governor responsible for a task force. Baltimore City, Prince George's County, we've been 23 and 24 in terms of public education for decades. The next governor of Maryland must have a task force and Baltimore and Prince George's and Baltimore are majority black. We need a governor that understands, unless these two school districts get some massive attention right away, you can't be our governor. This is
well, you know, Donnie, to your point, Mr. Gaskins' point, of two jurisdictions that have majority black control, but yet we allow that to happen. Do we really have control and power when that happens anyway, if we really care? Adrian Jones from Baltimore County, next to the city, Ferguson, Darrell Barnes, with the two worst performing systems in education in the state, and we care and we have power. We really have to assess what power looks like in our community to say that we really have it, to make change, to all of a sudden look at a probably white governor to do that for us, because it isn't going to happen. What I advocate is that Prince George's County and Baltimore City, people like Mr. Gaskins, Donnie Glover, myself, others, are creating some sort of pack so that we have some collaborative power to go at these politicians and say, hey, look, these two communities, if you don't do what we need you to do, you're not going to win. And the first thing we need is a seat on that board of public works. However we get it, either Tim Adams, who's run businesses successfully, even though he comes from a small town, but to Mr. Gaskins' point, does he have the energy and the commitment to win? If he doesn't, we need to push him out. Okay? We're at a stage, all three of us in our life, where we see sunset a lot quicker than we see sunrise. And how long do we have to wait? Is there a sense of urgency with us and our politics and our priorities to make these things happen? Get us a seat on that board of public works. That can be done immediately. We have the leadership in place. That's the mandate that they should be following. Donnie, you on mute.
We had Delegate Brooke Learman on this show, and we posed the question to her, exactly what you're talking about. We said that if you make it to comptroller, you'll be on the board of public works. What is your stance on black business?
You don't have to ask her. Look at her district.
Donnie, I have what's sad about that situation is that it's a tough seat to win, so you got to be aggressive. So I've sat down with Brooke too as well. I really don't know her father beyond the fact that he was a chief of staff, and of course, I know him that way. But personally, I've met him maybe 3 times in my entire life as an individual. But the person who reached out to me was Brooke. Brooke gave me a phone call and says, I want to sit down with you and talk to you about supporting me for that seat. I said, well, come on over. That's the purpose of discussing what you want to run for, is to have you to appear before me with your views and your vision for the state of Maryland. I'm still waiting for the phone call to come from the mayor to say that, Joe, I want you to be actively involved in my campaign here. And I think sometimes we as black folks, when we set out to run, we don't identify people that are activists, looked at by the system as people who are not going to work with the system, that's going to work for the betterment of the people. We don't want those people around us. We want the status quo individuals that the Millers blessed. So, and unless I told individuals, and 2 or 3 people said, why don't you talk to the mayor over there? I said, I'm not running for crap. What do I need to talk to him about? He needs to approach me. I haven't made a decision publicly on anybody in that particular race of who I'm supporting, but I can't wait forever for the phone call to come to me on who is the person that I'm going to finally select. Because at the end of the day, we're going to do an endorsement through the Maryland Business Clergy. We do that in any race. And if a person has not reached out to me, guess what? You're not going to get our endorsement for that. But I want to also mention that you still have the other seat, the treasurer seat is up too for a black person to sit in that seat. Don't forget that one. That's a very, very strong seat there. Is one Absolutely. Of the 3 votes that you need. So we should be thinking about who we are going to put in place. That's a appointed position. And it doesn't have to run a race in the state of Maryland, which is difficult to win in the state of Maryland when you got a powerful group behind you who basically control politics in the Senate and in the majority of congressional districts. You can do that through influence of your elected leadership to control that particular position. That's where we should be focused, Donnie, on that one, and at least control the 3.
Mr. Gaskins, what do you think about a consortium such as your ministry organization and other powerful black organizations going to a Calvin Ball or Angela Also Brooks saying, hey, you got to take one for the team. We need you to run for controller. We need you to do this, where we begin to look at candidates with the credibility and the integrity to be elected that are leadership now and say to them, hey, if you're about the people in this state, we need you to run. We need a seat on that board of public works. Calvin Ball, I'm very impressed with him, as well as Angela Also Brooks. I know they're in their first term, but that's the type of leadership that I think we need to raise to a higher platform for the cause of the people, not for their own cause personally.
Mr. Gaskins, get this email address. Monica Cooper wants to connect you. Monica C169 at Gmail. Monica C169 at Gmail.
Let me write Monica's email address down, and I'm gonna give over Monica AC169.
Monica C169 at Gmail. Let me just throw in there.
Okay.
Y'all remember C. Anthony Muse?
Yeah, I was gonna approach that one.
When C. Anthony Muse, when he ran for U.S. Senator, what struck me was that he was born in Baltimore. His career took off in Prince George's County, but nobody in Baltimore knew him. And so when I think of Rashawn Baker, who is in this race, this governor's race, the disappointment I have is that, okay, you were in the last governor's race. My understanding is he was parading around Baltimore County with Martin O'Malley.
Yes.
And now he's back in this governor's race again. And it's like, you know, with all due respect, it doesn't seem like he understands Black people, particularly Black people in Baltimore, because if he did, the last person he would be parading around Randallstown, Owens Mills, Towson with is Martin O'Malley. I mean, Martin O'Malley has a bad reputation, particularly as it relates to zero tolerance, locking up everybody. So it's like, did Rashawn Baker learn anything in the last election?
Obviously not.
He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy, but he's not gubernatorial material in my estimation.
My daddy said nice guys finish last.
I agree with you.
He didn't win.
Politics is the cruddiest game on earth. And it's like, where is he getting his talking points from? If Rashawn Baker got his talking points from Martin O'Malley on how to talk to Black people in Baltimore, that's a serious disconnect. It's not connecting. No signal.
I agree 100% with you, Don.
Yeah, the example of the presidential election where I think Jim Clyburn basically handed the presidential election by his endorsement in South Carolina of Biden, and Biden acknowledging that, is my apprehension in Maryland, which is beginning to look and shape like that, either Peter or whoever, that we're going to put someone in office that makes us commitments and promises to give us what it is that they think or feel that we want, or say what they need to get elected. Then we get there and empty promises, even with the leadership that we have. Breed our own, make our own, put them in office. Prince George's and Baltimore City collectively can carry the weight of this state politically if we could figure out what that collaborative look feels like. And Mr. Gaskins, you have the will and the power to do that, to bring these two counties together.
I'm working. I wouldn't put that on my back. I mean, I carry whatever load.
I just did. You didn't have to. I just did.
Look. I don't turn down anything when it comes to helping the black people. But I say what it takes. It takes a collaboration. There was the old saying that it takes a village to raise a child. That's true. But it also takes leadership. But it takes leadership with different minds. And I think without aggressive tools, we're nowhere. So you need the tools, you need the minds, you need the courage, you need all those particular components. I would love to lead a group of individuals, a team of individuals that basically do that as a response to what you said. And I will continue to do what I do, even if I have only one person following me in terms of my approach to doing things. It doesn't matter what it is, but I find people like Donnie extremely important in a movement because he's been doing a movement for years here. And that's the kind of team approach that you really need in order to get it done. It's got to be individuals. I had a conversation earlier with one of my individuals that I guess I would say that in training in the process. I don't even say in training in 55 years old, but still in training. Yes, I'm 60 some years ago, old and still in training. But the process is this: alienation. When individuals use terminology that alienate others, you lose that person. And this is a termination. This is the term that I was used when she was representing her position in a meeting, and she used, "We need more black females in position to do just this and that." I said, "Okay, change that and say that you need more black females and black males. Do not pit black males against black females. We're all one. And the worst thing you need to do is to get us against each other. White folk do that real well themselves.
Willie
They'll
Lynch.
posture and put people in place, and then you got us fighting each other from within. It's not necessary. And
Willie
so
Lynch.
that's where we are. That's where we got to be, Donnie. It's got to be all of us as a group of individuals.
Oh, hold on,
Hey,
Mike
final
Haney.
question for me, Mr. Gaskins. Do you know Al Hathaway?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because you know
I
what
know.
Al's doing now, right? He's a campaign chair for Peter Franchos, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
He's a
Yes.
good friend of mine, but it doesn't mean I won't hold him accountable. Because if we
Absolutely.
think Peter is our best opportunity, then Al, because he didn't pick Al just because Al was a nice guy. He picked
No.
Al because of Prince George's County and Baltimore City and the look and the fact that his credibility as a pastor, a doctor, and whatever else. And so, as much as I love Dr. Al Hathaway, that's
Yes.
who we have to hold accountable.
I
Because you
agree.
said
I
you
agree
had spoken
100%.
to his people earlier in the week, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I have, and I make it a point to be in Howard County, Baltimore County, all the counties, to make sure that I'm meeting with people who are legislative lead and who are activists in terms of directing legislative leadership. I was with the group headed up by Shahab Kwani as well, to meet with his individuals over there to see what their thoughts are in terms of the political process. I make sure that I get to all of those individuals who are powerful enough and who are not going to go away. They're going to be there and they're going to be effective and they're going to be responsible in terms of raising people to make a decision.
Gentlemen, it's 11:03, but I have to pose one more important question to you, Mr. Gaskins. We have not covered the Republican side. You got Kelly Schultz, and then you also have former Lieutenant Governor Michael Steele. Is it possible that we could see for the first time in modern history 2 Republican administrations, or will Black people's undying love for the Democratic Party almost automatically guarantee a Democratic governor?
My position on this, and Michael Steele is a friend of mine. I supported Michael, supported him with Ehrlich's administration. He's a great person. He's in a powerful position in his capacity with MSNBC. But my real feeling on Michael at this particular point in time is that Michael has moved so far to the left that he's not going to be an attractive candidate for the governorship in the party. I think Kelly's going to get that vote because I really know that in the Republican Party, we have an extreme right component that would never support him. The moderates will probably never support him. He had something unique going on when he was the lieutenant governor and then a candidate for Senate. He had
I think he lost
African
it when he
American
ran
voters.
for Senate. I think he lost it when he ran for Senate.
He lost it, but he had a base. African American.
He had a base, but it got muddied, it got blurred, and it was too early in the Ehrlich Steele partnership for him to be jumping off on his own.
Absolutely. That's correct. That damaged the ticket. That hurt Ehrlich there. He should have stayed with Ehrlich in that. That's a
Remember,
huge mistake.
Ehrlich got the blind lady who was married to a Mormon break dancer.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Hey,
That is,
Donnie, can I mention
it's it.
regarding that? You know, Francho has been described as a closet Republican, which he is a very conservative Democrat or a very liberal Republican. So it negates the power of Steele and Schultz to defeat him. So, to your question, my assessment is there's no way they can beat Peter Franchos because he'll do well in the Eastern Shore, he'll do well in Western Maryland because he's a closet Republican, not described by me, but described by others. And that's why he and Hogan got along real well, right? And had very good relationships in Hogan's first administration. And then when Peter decided he was going to run for governor, then all of a sudden he had to put that natural division in place. But I don't think Schultz or Steele would stand a chance against Francho because he's a Republican.
Well, one thing started under Bob Ehrlich, and that is the reign of black lieutenant governors. On
That's
that
right.
note, who is Francho's running mate going to be?
Donnie, it's going to be a black female.
Yeah, I've heard rumors.
And I'm very candid in terms of who I'm pushing as a candidate in that particular race. My opinion is my opinion. But I think the person out there should be a lady that we might not know about, or you might not know about. The lady's name is Deborah Carter. She's a unique individual. She's a business-oriented individual. She's from Prince George County. She's not tied into the political. So I need to know who you are. I've known her for many, many years. Now, if the person was from Baltimore City, and I don't like to get into your local politics because you said, what the hell do you know about Baltimore City? But I like Jill Carter as an individual out of Baltimore City. I've seen her.
Well, Mary Washington. Mary Washington is the name that we have heard associated out of Baltimore City.
No, that's the name. That's the name we heard months ago.
Yeah, months ago. It changes.
That's the name. Yeah, it changes every day.
We haven't been hearing that name.
But Mr. Gaskins, I'm disappointed that you say that you don't want to be involved in Baltimore politics. And just a few minutes ago,
without
said
your
that
permission.
We need that. Well, listen, you don't need our permission. We're all the same.
Yes,
as you said, right?
I disagree, Mr. Haney. I like his respectful way. That's just like me going to Prince George's and telling them who to vote for. I'm going to listen to my friends down there, including Joe Gaskins, Dr. Wilbur Wilson, my advisors, and I'm going to follow their instructions.
I'm with you, Haney, on that, but there's mutual respect. Even Bumpy Johnson and his boys had respect when they were operating in what is now the legal trade of doing business. They had respect in their
territorial respect, huh? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Bumpy.
All right, we've given them much too much. We ought to charge admission for this show right here. Mr. Gaskins, you want to put your contact information out there? The same with you, Mr. Haney, for anyone interested in contacting you. And thank you for joining us. I appreciate you coming here, Mr. Joe. And again, Mike, I don't know if you saw this, but Mr. Joe gave me the Mandela Award back in 2013, and it's still on my mantelpiece. Praise God.
Deserving. Mr. Gaskins, it's been a pleasure, man. It's been a real
Michael,
pleasure.
it's great,
I look forward
man.
to shaking your hand.
All right. Well, like we haven't stopped yet. We're still on the way. It's a movement in effect. So I'm taking you up on that one.
Absolutely.
Okay, you can reach me. You can reach me at directly on my phone at 240-286-8567, or you can email
one more time, nice and slow.
40-286-8567. Now, my email is easy. It's X as in Malcolm X Gaskins, GASKINS at AOL.com.
When I saw that X in your email address, that's all I could think about was Malcolm X.
Hey, look,
And then
that's my hero.
Bumpy Johnson. So you've been watching The Godfather of Harlem through the coaching thing. But it was a real interesting. Listen, you had Bumpy Johnson in the streets, Adam Clayton Powell in the political realm, and Bumpy Johnson who else? Bumpy Johnson. Oh, Malcolm X.
Malcolm X.
That second season was a nail biter, man. That second season was a beast.
That no, seriously, it's got to be duplicated. So yeah, it's my pleasure to have been here, Donnie. I always appreciate that.
Good deal. Mr. Haney, how can people get in touch with you? And tell them what you do, by the way. Okay, maybe not. My name's Donnie Glover.
Mr. Gaskins, I'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Glover, and thank you for joining us for another edition of the BlackUSA.News morning show. Come back this evening. We'll have Doug Blackshear with the Black Business Roundtable live from Oakland, California. Tomorrow night, we'll have Kamal Hubbard with Black USA Crypto News. He's coming from the East Bay area. And then on Saturday morning, live from New York City, is Tasmir Gathers with the Blackout. Talk to you next time, and be safe out there. And don't forget, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, just like we got to check on our physical health, we also got to keep a tab on our mental health, especially in the middle of COVID. You are not alone. And lastly, HALT. Don't ever get too hungry, too angry, too lonely, too tired. Talk to somebody. Be nice.